Hey, what's up guys? I'm Joey with Öhlins USA. Today I'd like to discuss the installation of our NIX 22 fully adjustable cartridge kit on a Harley-Davidson Bagger. What we're going to start off with are the proper tools that are needed to do the installation. We'll then open up the box to see what comes inside. To start off with, we'll need a 19mm Allen, followed by an extended 12mm Allen. Both of these will be driven by an impact. Our pull-up tool, our spring plate tool, an open-end 13mm wrench, a 14mm socket, preferably plastic lined if possible, and then a 3mm Allen, followed by our air gap measuring tool, which a common household syringe can be used in place of this. If you are deciding to fully disassemble your fork, which we recommend after 5,000 miles, you will need a 49mm seal driver as well to insert the seal. Our first box will contain the main springs. Second box will contain the owner's manual and mounting instructions, which contain some very important data on the back. Our left and right cartridge kits, 2 different length preload spacers, our guide rings, and a set of O-rings for the fork caps. For fork removal, we're going to start off by removing our main axle, followed by the fender, your 2 calipers. Then we will undo the lower triple clamp pinch bolts, and then the upper triple clamp pinch bolt, and then the fork should be easily removed. Once the fork's removed, I install it in our fork vise. Take the 19mm on an impact. The stock spring has a lot of preload on it, so once this cap comes off, it's going to want to shoot to the moon. So what I like to do is take a rag, wrap it around, hold it, hit it with the impact. We take our stock fork cap off, stock preload tube. This is a nice little trick I like to do. The green bags that the cartridge kits come in, put it over the fork tube, grab the stock spring, just keeps everything very tidy. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain all the stock oil out. Work that. Next thing I'm going to do is take our 12mm extended Allen, hit the bottom base bolt, and the stock internal should come out. What we're going to retain is the OEM top out spring. This is very important. Now, if your forks have under 5,000 miles on them, generally, you can start the cartridge kit installation. But from here, I like to fully disassemble them to get whatever gunk's inside of them completely out, and that's what I'm going to do next. To do so, we're going to remove the retaining clip. Once the circlip's removed, pull the upper tube from the lower tube. Once the fork tubes are separated, we want to make sure that we retain the OEM hydraulic lock cup, as well as the top out spring, as we mentioned before. What we are getting rid of is the OEM spring preload tube, and the OEM emulator. From there, I'm going to thoroughly clean the upper and lower tube and replace the seals and bushings if necessary. Once the tubes are fully disassembled, it's now to make sure that everything is cleaned on the inside and out. Once our forks are cleaned, it's now time to get our cartridge kits. Each cartridge has its own job. The right side controls rebound, the left side controls compression. We like to put the rebound in the right leg, our arm. compression in the left leg. The way we determine rebound from compression is on the rebound leg, the bleed holes will be located at the bottom of the tube. It will also state REB on the fork cap, whereas the compression leg, the bleed holes will be located on the top of the tube, and it will say COMP on the fork cap itself. Once that we determine I have the rebound leg in my hand and I have the right side fork, I'm going to go ahead and start doing the installation. Once the upper and lower tubes are cleaned, it's now time to prepare the upper tube for installation. I'll take it and install the upper and lower bushing, install the fork seal that has been greased. I will then turn it upside down, grab the stock OEM hydraulic lock cup and insert it. I then will take the fork bottom and place it onto the upper tube. I am now going to turn it upside down. Make sure that the upper tube and the lower tube stays compressed because we don't want the hydraulic lock cup to become dislodged. Now in this position, I'm going to grab the seal driver. Drive the seal, insert the circlip that retains the fork seal. This fork is now ready for the installation of the cartridge kit. Take the appropriate cartridge kit, remove the fork cap, install the top out spring first. Take the cartridge kit and install it. With the cartridge kit installed, take the base bolt with a new copper crush washer. Take your 12mm Allen and torque it to factory settings. Once the cartridge kit's installed, now it's time to add oil and to set the air gap. We use our Öhlins 1309 oil. I like to pour it about 3 inches from the top. Grab the upper tube and work that. This is allowing the oil to get between the upper and lower tube. After you've done that a couple of times, I'll insert more oil. Till about 2 to 3 inches from the top. Then I'll grab the upper tube, put my hand on it, pull up, creating a vacuum, and then I'll push down. Pull up, creating a vacuum. Do the same thing, but pushing down. I will then grab the damper rod and feel that it has a nice, consistent stroke. That tells me that the cartridge kit is now bled. I will then grab my air gap tool, preset to 140 millimeters. The air gap of 140 millimeters has now been set. From there, grab my pull-up tool, screw it onto the damper rod, make sure the jam nut is all the way down to the bottom. Grab the spring. We always like to put the laser etched number facing up. Grab the appropriate preload spacer and guide ring and snap them together and install. Next, grab the spring clip tool, pull up on the damper rod, simultaneously pushing down on the preload tube to install the spring clip. I will now remove the pull-up tool, grab the fork cap, screw that on until it bottoms out. Then that jam nut will start to work its way up to the fork cap. From there, I will get the 13mm open end on the jam nut, our 14mm socket, snug those together. Remove the spring clip tool. I will then get the O-ring, install it on the fork cap. apply some grease to the threads and O-ring of the fork cap. And there I will get the 14mm socket. While pulling up on the upper tube and pushing down on the fork cap, I will rotate the lower tube to start engaging the threads. Once the fork cap has bottomed out on the tube, it's now time to add preload. For this customer, I'm adding 13 turns of preload based off of the setup data on the back of the mounting instructions. Now the last step, which is very important, is to set the bleed on the top of the fork cap. To do that, we go clockwise until it stops. And then based off of the setup data on the back of the mounting instructions, it says to start at 12 clicks out. So I'm now going to go 12 clicks counterclockwise. This fork is now ready for installation onto the bike. I am now going to repeat the same process for the compression leg. After the cartridge kits have been installed, there's a checklist that you may want to go through before installing them on the bike. Number 1, did you use the OEM hydraulic lock cup? Number 2, did you remember the top out spring? Number 3, setting the oil level height correctly. That's very critical. Number 4, setting the preload. And number 5, setting the bleeds on both rebound compression. Making sure all of those were done correctly will make sure that you get the best ride possible on your bike. Remember, critical setup data can be found on the last page of the included mounting instructions. It can also be found at OhlinsUSA.com. Search for the cartridge kit in the search field. In this case, our part number is FKS228. Once on the FKS228 page, scroll to Mounting Instructions. Use the table to determine the correct preload and valve settings. In the near future, we will be creating a new part number for 2017 and newer baggers. This part number will include the cartridge kit, 2 different spring rate options, the 2 special tools, and the lowering kit option all in one box. I want to thank you for joining us today. Please keep your eyes open for future videos from Öhlins USA.